Sean, just wondering if you could take a minute and tell us about how the story that you write about works so well in group discussion, in a group of people.
Well, the story that has become the book is something my wife and I have been walking through groups with for about a decade. As people began to hear the story together, they began to two things began to become real clear to us. One is that as people heard the story together, they would ask questions, which was so freeing, because a lot of folk have not been encouraged to ask the questions they really have in group settings. To hear someone else ask a question that you yourself have had and always wanted to ask but were afraid to is very affirming. And then secondly, hearing the story together, especially with people who aren't like us, we all of us, myself included, every time we do this, begins to hear the story in a new way, because everybody hears the story differently. And so many of us who have grown up in the church or are part of the church, we think there's only one way to tell the story. There's only, there is this thing called truth that the Bible is telling, and we know what it is. And suddenly we start hearing Scripture and the story that Scripture is telling with people who aren't like us. And suddenly we say, wow, I've never seen that before. Tell me why you think it means that. As my wife Rebecca says, if Scripture can be likened to a landscape, we're all of us standing in some part of that landscape. And determined by where we're standing in the landscape will determine what we can see. And what we need is people who are standing in other parts of the landscape to make our view of the landscape much bigger. And also, just as importantly, to tell us where we're standing. And so in terms of group discussion, hearing the story together has been beautiful, and people asking their questions and hearing other people talk about the story in ways they haven't heard before has just been really a beautiful part of the last 10 years of our life.